Small Business University with the Fresno Chamber of Commerce. This is a topic that we're really excited about. This was the first year that we added the Child Friendly Business Awards to the Valley Business Awards. And we've partnered with First Five to kind of promote child-friendly businesses in Fresno County. And we'll be talking a little bit today about why it is good business to be a child-friendly business. So really, again, really excited to have you all here. Let's introduce our panelists. Let's start with Cindy Hernandez with First Five. Thank you for being here, Cindy.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you to the panelists for joining me. Yes, I'm so excited to be here. This has been a project long in the making. And again, First Five Fresno County has had the Child Friendly Business Awards for the last 18 years. So now we're saying that it's grown up. And now we have this great partnership with the Chamber to expand our scope and our reach and to celebrate all the businesses out there that are doing child-friendly business practices. And so why it's good business, or why we believe, and we know that you'll hear from our panelists today and exactly how that works in their workplace. Why I believe that it's good business to be child friendly is because it's a win-win, right? We know that parents are working and they need support and care to be able to be to work, and that includes a variety of different ways that businesses can be child friendly, whether that's a hybrid schedule, or flexibility in the workplace, or even help with childcare. We know that it promotes long-term benefits for both the business and the parents, including retention rate is higher. And we know how important that is because of the cost of training a new person to take over the role. We know that it promotes just overall good morale for the business. And it's definitely one of those places that begins to be a model for other businesses. And so that's part of the goal for us, is to continue to celebrate the businesses that are doing that, and then to continue to help working parents understand some of those benefits that will help them be better parents. So we're excited to be on this panel and to hear from our partners and Child Friendly Business Award winners.
Excellent. We'll get into some of the specifics of what it takes to become a child-friendly business here in just a moment, but also like to introduce Brianna Jakosa from Legacy Construction, a awardee in this category, and you're also an HR professional. So love to hear from you about why it's important for businesses to be child-friendly.
Thanks for having us today. We're honored to be here representing the company Legacy Construction. We're very family friendly, beyond child friendly, which I think is super important to note too. It's essential. Creating a child friendly business reflects our values and supports the people who make our company thrive. Our company mission statement in general begins with, we're a people first company, committed to creating and building environments and partnerships that support the needs of our communities. And we can't say that without holding true to that statement. And so when employees know they don't have to choose between being great parents and doing great work, they can truly show up and succeed in both spaces. And that's really important for us. We found that supporting parents through things like flexibility and understanding, and then family conscious policies and practices leads to higher retention, definitely stronger morale, and fosters this culture of underlying trust and respect for each other, no matter the stage of life that your family might be in. It's also a long-term investment. We create these environments for working parents, not just helping them today, but we also recognize that we're helping raise the next generation of workers, right? And we're doing that with stability, care, and the ability for parents to be present. And that's the kind of impact, and dare I say legacy, that we want to have, not just in business, but in our communities as well.
Excellent. And then finally, we have Deanna Allen with Best Buddies International. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Scott. And yes, my name's Deanna Allen. I'm the manager of mission advancement for Best Buddies here in Fresno. Best Buddies is a global nonprofit, and we serve individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. But here in Fresno, we have a small growing office, and we are making a direct impact here in Fresno through friendship, jobs, and leadership. And so when we're looking at child-friendly businesses, and we were super honored to be recognized this year, and I didn't know it was the first year in the Fresno First Five family or child-friendly businesses. We look at it through both our employees, of course, and just like Brianna talked about, all those things are true, making it possible to work in our office in a way that's family friendly and easy for people to stay on, do a great job, but also do a great job with their family. But also, and I think this is important for businesses too, is being child friendly in who we serve and in our clientele and how we do business. And we work with obviously people who are in families. We work with both children and adults who have disability, and we work with the children mostly in a school programs. And then one thing I would like to just remind people as we go along through these things that first of all, families and children with disabilities and adults with disabilities all have unique needs. And so businesses that recognize those needs and learn, like we all have to learn more. We're still learning and we work with them all the time. They will be able to serve that segment of the population, those customers, those people who have needs that the businesses can serve. And so I hope that what I have to say today is helpful in that realm.
Okay. So one of the things that we've talked about a lot is that being family friendly or child friendly is good business. And Cindy, you touched on it a little bit, but what are some of the advantages to just regular family businesses? So in other words, I think there's maybe a preconception with a lot of people that large businesses are the ones that are most able to create, carve outs or space for child-friendly policies, but small businesses can do it too. So kind of why is it good business for everybody?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we've had over 90 businesses that have been awarded the Child Friendly Business Award by First Five over the last 18 years. And we've had businesses as small as 3 and as big as, a university. And so child friendly business can be applied at multiple levels, and it could be creating a space inside of your business for your employees to be able to bring their children to the office. I know in our office we have 2 babies just under a year that are our frequent mini co-workers, right? And it's giving that space for families to be able to do that. We've had winners that have created especially during COVID, a whole floor of their office buildings to make sure that they could bring, elementary school kiddos to school during that time where you couldn't take kids to regular school. And so they were able to create a space. So I think, and every business can sort of figure out ways that they can be child friendly, whether it's something, small or big. We have some bigger winners that have been able to provide childcare for their employees. And really, it is a win-win. We talked about retention, but also recruitment. We have a Child Friendly Business Award winner that uses the fact that they were a Child Friendly Business winner on their website as a recruitment tool. And so as employers are looking for businesses that have integrated work and life, that is an advantage for those working and looking in the job market. And then we've also had, businesses have been, have it's happened organically where they've become child friendly. There's a situation that happened in their office and then they adapt to that and then they realize the benefits of that long term. And then we have others who have been really intentional to make that as part of their practice and their ethos from the very beginning. And again, there's so many ways that it's beneficial. And I think too, as we, nationally, it's becoming a movement around bigger corporations and smaller corporations, just trying to figure out ways that they can no longer, it used to be like you leave your work life at the door when you get to work, and that's not so much the culture anymore. It's really how do we integrate that? How do we do what's best for our employer in its most holistic way? And a lot of that has been has been started by our small business community. So, and I'm sure that Brianna and Deanna have great stories to share about how that has been created in their own workplaces.
Yeah, absolutely. So employee retention, it'll help to comply with some California laws, and we have a couple of slides about the California laws from First Five that we'll put up in a little bit, and just employee satisfaction, right? So I think that's one thing that everybody's kind of realized. A, that we'll have meetings like this on Zoom that we may not have had prior to COVID, and B, that people, what people want out of work and their work life has changed a lot since COVID, and that as employers, we need to adapt to that if we want to be leaders in the community and best in class for our businesses. So again, speaking of best in class, Legacy Construction has really been a leader in a lot of categories, including this one. So, Brianna, what was the kind of journey to child friendly like from Legacy Construction's point of view?
Yeah, great question. For us, I haven't been with the company since its founding, but we're relatively new. We've been, founded kind of around about 17 years ago. So we kind of had a unique opportunity to build the culture from the ground up, and the founders did a fantastic job of just level setting that foundation. They really built it with having that in mind, which is super unique. So flexibility, empathy, understanding, and the realities of life outside of work were really baked into the foundation. We didn't have a need to like retrofit policies or overhaul systems. They were built with families in mind. So that means things like flexible hours, especially things like start times, family-friendly company events where we throw those, intentionally inviting outside family members to get to know them, to understand, get to know their kiddos on what grade they're in, to watch them grow up, I think is super unique. And understanding when kids are homesick, creating a culture where people don't have to apologize for being parents, I think is huge. We aren't afraid of challenging our own practices either. And so we continually have conversations and evaluate openly and honestly about how we can continuously improve. Obviously, COVID forced us to have a lot of challenging conversations about our business practices, and then kind of the return to, normal, can we say normal life now, right? Outside of that, to go back and just challenge what we had done. Is it working? Does it continue to work for us? And it is a part of how we attract and retain great talent. And it's something we're really proud of continuing to prioritize as we grow. I heard Cindy say, the work-life balance, and I've even challenged employers and myself when looking at our company policies. I read one time, and it stuck with me, that a balance insinuates this give or take. It has to be one thing or the other, where it truly is more of a harmony. And even writing that into your policies, where it's something that works alongside and coincides and works together instead of a give or take, can make a difference in how you interpret your own policies and then how you practice those as well.
Excellent. I've been to the Legacy office, and it's pretty amazing. Obviously, you're a company that produces a lot of work in the community, a lot of construction going on, including the remodeling of the chamber building where I'm sitting right now. So I know that your company produces very high-end work, and a lot of it. and your office is just really a cool place to be. Also dog friendly.
Yeah. I'm going to touch on that later too. So I look forward to being able to speak more about that as well. But yeah, dogs make everyone's heart a little bit happier for the most part, and I can talk at great lengths about that. And I look forward to kind of working that in here as we continue. But I'm glad you found, it really is. Culture really isn't what you say too. I always say it's a feel. And so being able to walk into an office and feel that is a really beautiful compliment to what we're trying to achieve. So thank you.
I love what you said too about harmony. I think in the last few years, we've sort of changed that idea of balance and integration, use integration. But I love that word that you use about harmony, right? I think, as a mom of three littles and also a working parent, like I know there's no such thing as balance. Like it's just impossible. But that integration, right? That harmony, I love that illustration. I'm gonna borrow that, Brianna. Like definitely borrow that. But I think that's a great, great point.
It's kind of an overused trope that a lot of us in small business say that, oh, we're a family. We operate it like a family. Even some very large corporations will say, oh, we're a family. But if you haven't created the type of culture where people can include their family or flex a little bit here and there, it's kind of calling it a family kind of rings a little bit empty. So this is really a great movement. And again, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, we're happy to be a part of it. Deanna, what's been the journey towards child friendly for Best Buddies? I mean, obviously, you're the kind of the whole concept of Best Buddies would be very family friendly, but tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, that's actually very true. And I love that word harmony as well. And I hear a lot of things that are being said with Brianna, especially that will overlap. But our journey and why it's essential for our business to be child friendly are very connected. And as you said, I think it's been a part of the Best Buddies culture from the very beginning because it's just baked into who we are and what our mission is. And I think specifically in the case of Best Buddies, I think first it applies to part of our mission using the word, and again, Brianna mentioned that earlier, person-centered, very similar to that, person-centered. That is a big part of our mission, and our programs are designed to be person-centered, meaning we prioritize individual needs, preferences, goals in all aspects of their involvement with Best Buddies. So of course, that applies also to our workplaces. As I said, there's workplaces all across the country, and Fresno is one of them. And I think most of our offices are fairly small, and so we know each other well. We experience the unexpected parts of life together. We when the unexpected of life impacts one of our staff members, then the other staff members need to come in. And so a lot of times the unexpected is related to kids, right? And so that is the reality of workplaces and what makes us child friendly and family friendly. And when it comes to kids, I think, we started focused on kids, and we recognize that their value in society and that their vulnerability in society is real. And especially when those kids have intellectual and developmental disabilities, and we call that IDD. Kids with IDD, they are often overlooked and not seen as unique or valuable, and maybe not considered worth investing in a lot. And it's critical to invest in them because how we invest in our kids, whether they have IDD or not, helps them to shape our future society and values. And as I heard earlier, our future employees, right? We're setting the culture with how we create our businesses. And And the way I looked at this when I was preparing for this is, yes, our workplace, very, very important how the workplace is set up to be child friendly and family friendly, because it does impact longevity. It does impact the quality of people that you attract and who can accept that job and who can actually do that job in reality, and do they have to leave because there's lack of flexibility. We have flexibility, all those kind of things, and I think that's coming up a little later. But I wanted to say, like, I was really thinking about this a lot from also the standpoint, and I think a lot the businesses who probably are represented on the call also, I would like to encourage you to think about how you are kid friendly as a business to the community and to the people you serve, and the people, you know, that is our reality. That is, we work with so many families, and so many families that, I mean, I would say all the families almost are impacted by disability, which brings a huge new um, layer of complexity into their lives that's very real for them. And whether that's an employee that you hire that has a child with disability, or if it's a family that somehow you are serving them as a client or a customer, it's something I really want to encourage you in. I think part of the success of what I would like to communicate today is your the big picture and your goals and how you look at child friendliness. Because if you are thinking about things like this, like even families impacted by disability, it could impact how you progress. And it has impacted how Best Buddy has progressed over the years. And that's because it's how we started. And so a big part of Best Buddies is integrating, right? And helping somebody with a disability have access to something that that other people have access to, that they might need a special consideration or an adaptation or something like that. So as a business, whether it's for an employee or for a customer, client, think about, is there any kind of adaptations that you need to do, whether it's in schedules, whether it's physical, whether anything like that. And there's a lot to learn about that. There's a lot of places you can go to understand your environment and how it impacts people. You could have adults in your employment who have sensitivities to environment. And that is true with kids as well. And so thinking about the environment, thinking about if a child comes in with untypical behavior, let's say it's a restaurant, is there ways, or are there things that you can do to be child friendly so that a family with a child with disability can come enjoy your restaurant? Because oftentimes kids with disabilities and their families don't get to experience normal things like birthday parties and going to the mall and going to movies and prom and sports and peers. How does that affect your business, and how could you make your business, whether it's for an employee or for customers, more friendly? And so those are just some thoughts from things that we experience on a daily basis, and that you could be a company not only that could enlarge your customer base and who you're serving, but you could really impact a family and a child who otherwise could be very isolated in their normal day to day, just because of the realities of their life. That's the result of what happens. And so I could go on and on, but those are some of my thoughts.
No, but you make a really good point. We
Mhm.
talk a lot, and because we're a chamber of commerce, we talk a lot about what the HR requirements are, and why being child friendly or family friendly kind of helps with some of the laws. And we'll put some on the screen. We'll talk a little bit about that. But but also it's just you know, for lack of a better term, it's a good look for a business in terms of the customers and being, you know, having whoever you're doing business with see that you're a caring company, whether it's a customer facing retail company or a restaurant, or in my case, I own a nursery that is open to families, and we spend a lot of effort on being family friendly ourselves. I don't think we're eligible to get an award anymore, but we're still doing it. Brianna, would you be willing to help us walk through some of these laws? And Jimena, would you put the slides on the screen? And we'll just touch on them, and we'll be able to send these slides to everybody who's participating today. But Jimena, is that something we can do? Or there we go. So one of the things that we've talked about a lot, I know Jimena's going to work on making this a full screen thing, but one of the things we've talked about a lot is that it is good business, but it also helps comply with some of the laws that with California laws. And Brianna, I apologize. I don't know if you've seen these slides before, but they are each one of these 10. So we'll just touch on them. But California requires pregnancy disability leave. It requires leave for new parents. The Paid Family Leave Act is a huge. All of us as employers deal with these things. Sick leave, you have to allow people to use sick leave to take care of their kids or their family members. If you have 25 or more employees at the same location, you need to allow your employees to take unpaid time off of work for, you know, to do school-related activities. Lactation accommodation is one that I think a lot of businesses get surprised by, because it's, depending on the business, that can be actually, you know, fairly difficult to comply with, but we are all required to comply with it. So pregnancy, paid sick days, reproductive leave, and you're required to provide 30-day notice before bringing remote employees back to in person. So how can and you can take the slides down now, Jimena, but and we'll send these to everybody. But how can having a family-friendly or child-friendly workplace help comply with all these things, which are laws anyway?
Such a great question. I always say that the laws exist, especially in California, because people weren't doing the right things, right? So then they made laws about them and then, you know, kind of enforced them broadly. It's the human approach to everything. And I think the more that we kind of step back, and if you're kind of navigating and doing the right thing, you'll find yourself complying with a lot of these things. And they are written and they are stringent in California, the litigious state that it is. It can be very risky. You know, familiarize yourself with them. If you have your handbook done outside, you know, by a third party, make sure you know what's written in there. I think one of the most interesting things that I find as an HR professional, I've worked for a couple other companies in different industries, and even I get phone calls from friends, is that these things are hard for employees to navigate. It's hard for them to find the information. It is difficult for them to know what is available to them. And so making things transparent as an employer, knowing what those laws are yourself, to be able to help them navigate them transparently, to let them know what their options are, to help them through that entire process. It is already stressful enough. You know, my goal always as an HR professional is not to add to that. I don't need to pile onto it. I don't want to add to it. What can I do to help create a roadmap here? What can I do to help plan accordingly? Let's do a leave planning session. Let's talk about your individual situation privately so that we can understand if you're dealing with difficult things, if it is a difficult pregnancy, if you experienced loss before, maybe you just did and don't want a whole bunch of people to know about it. I want to create a safe space emotionally for people to come in, be able to ask for what they need, or for me to be able to also provide them things that they don't know are available that they didn't know they needed. And so being able to really make those things transparent, not hiding them. I find a lot of employers will bury them in the handbook, tell employees that it's in there, go read it, let me know what you need. So we definitely try to take a much more human, kind of I guess more of a Cadillac approach to how we help employees navigate those things personally.
And
And when it comes to the business case, it's also a question of whether you're going to be proactive about it or whether you're going to be, as an employer. Small employers are constantly surprised by these HR laws, and you end up learning about it, or a lot of our friends and members end up learning about these laws as a result of having frankly violated them or been surprised by them, or having an employee with a situation, and it's the first of its kind, but it's been a law for a long time. And so businesses that get in front of these those 10 laws that we just put on the screen by having a child-friendly policy can avoid a lot of expensive litigation down the road by just accommodating these things as part of their day-to-day culture, versus being forced to, or getting fined, or or worse, sued. So it really is good business, in addition to just being the right thing to do.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And I'm just going to add to that a little bit, because I know we talk a lot about child friendly, and that's obviously why we're here too. But I keep expanding on family friendly things like the bereavement leave laws, who's covered. CFRA and FMLA have expanded. Well, CFRA, California Family Rights Act, has expanded their definition to include a supportive person. And that doesn't just have to be immediate family. A lot of antiquated bereavement policies still have X amount of days for close family and X amount of days for extended family, and they define who that is for the employee, instead of allowing the employee to define that for themselves, again, knowing that every situation is a little bit different. And so being able, at the end of the year, there's a lot of local attorneys that'll put on labor law seminars and things to attend to stay abreast on all the changes that happen in California on a yearly basis. To just kind of, and then reading through your handbook changes every year, making sure again that what you're offering to your employee base, to be able to better help them navigate that, and stay out of hot water. No one wants that demand letter on their desk that's going to be very expensive because you didn't do what could have been a very easy thing in the beginning. So,
can I also add that we are a resource, and for those 10 laws, that's part of our child friendly business campaign that we put out. So we're definitely a resource. If there is a business that is, we've helped our local PD with their lactation policy. Like, they've sent it to us and allowed, asked for review and help with understanding the lactation, because a couple of years ago when the lactation law came out, and then there was an expansion to that, to now you have to have a sink and refrigeration in a lactation room, and it can't be a bathroom isn't an option. And so and again, like Brianna said, there's a lot of outdated handbooks, and so bringing them current. But First Five is always a resource if you want to, hey, this is what we have, does that make sense? Or hey, we're not sure where to start when it comes to child friendly. We, along with the chamber, are a resource. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
Thank you. I guess I should mention too that we are also a resource, and we have every January a fairly popular SBU, just like this one, on the new labor laws, because this is California, and every single year there are new labor laws or expansions in labor law, and frankly, as as a small employer, it feels like they're gotchas sometimes. It feels like it's very difficult for small businesses to, under 10 employee businesses or under 100 employee businesses, if you don't have the budget to have a full-time HR department, just trying to keep up with knowing what you don't know, or is very nearly impossible. So checking in with resources that are available through First Five or the chamber or other places really can help. I just can't stress enough the number of small businesses in this community and friends of mine and chamber members who get surprised by HR laws after it's too late. And so being proactive about it, again, is just like the absolutely most important thing. Cindy, I was going to ask you to talk about some of the, it's a long history on this award. What are some of the other businesses besides these that have been awardees over the years, and maybe some specific stories about companies that, went from good to great as a result of having these types of policies, or some individual stories?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so over 90 businesses on that list includes, I know I want to pull it up so I don't get them wrong, but we know Legacy and Best Buddies. We have had Lee's HVAC. We've had the Central Valley Community Foundation. We've had Fresno State as a winner, ABC 30. We've had oh goodness. There's this tire company called Balls Tires that has been a winner. We have had a couple of CBOs in town, like Central Valley Children's Services Network, Youth Leadership Institute, um, and of course, this year, our first child-friendly business winner of the year was awarded through our new partnership with the Chamber, and that was SendCal Services, Inc., which, oh gosh, that was such a great experience with them, and such a humble organization. And they don't even have a website, and they're doing all these amazing things for their employees, including that like flexible work schedule. And the unique thing about the Child Friendly Business Awards is that it's an employee nominated award. And so these are employees sharing experiences and stories about how their businesses have supported them through pregnancy. We have great stories about, women who have come back from maternity leave. And one of the things that we promote as part of being child friendly is a transition back into the workforce after coming back from leave, whether it's maternal or paternal leave. And so that's working with your employer to maybe it's a 4-day week that you're starting out, or 2-day, 3 days. So this is just a little easier transition to kind of get back into the rhythm of things. So we've heard great stories about businesses doing that. We've also had some businesses that have done extended maternal leave or paternal leave. And so that means that instead of those 4 months, they would, do an extra month or a half a month. We've had one business that had a childcare center that they had opened for their employees. Childcare is becoming one of those increasingly needed things for businesses. Um, so continuing to figure out innovative ways to do that. We've had businesses that set up a employer fund for their employees, an emergency fund for their employees in case something comes up and can be used. That has been one of those, again, another policy that has been put in place. And again, the sizes vary from, pretty small business to bigger business. And some of those practices are mostly done by those smaller and mid-sized businesses. And so, yeah, I can name, there's so many more.
I think that the thing that's great about that list, and I know it's available on the First Five website, is that it is companies of every size. They're not necessarily, some of the things you mentioned have a significant cost to an employer, and some of them don't. In cases where it's safe to do, having occasionally somebody bring a child to work with them is kind of one of those things that for people my age would have been unheard of, even in office jobs 20 or 30 years ago. But making that part of the culture, and having a workplace where it's okay to take an extended lunch break to go do something for one of your kids, or to bring one of your kids to work with you. Maybe not every day, but in those cases where families need to flex a little bit, those types of policies essentially don't cost anything and allow people to be at work and be satisfied with their work life, instead of having to leave or take a vacation day, and actually can increase productivity that way.
Yeah.
Uh,
And one of
so
the myth busters, I think, is you mentioned earlier quality. And one of the myth busters is that if you have a child-friendly policy, does that make the work suffer? And I think you could hear from both the winners here and the winners on our list is that quality is not affected. I think sometimes it's even improved, right? Because there's this like sense of, that loyalty that comes when you're child friendly by an employee, but also this like trust and respect, and also like, oh man, my workplace did this for me, I'm going to work that much harder for them. And so I think that you'll sort of the other side effect benefit is this like quality doesn't go down. I would say it even goes, higher. And so, I think sometimes that could be a myth that uh, is often out there about the quality.
excellent. Well, we're getting close to our time for today. So if anybody has any questions for the panelists, please put them in the chat. But while that's happening, I just wanted to ask Brianna and Deanna, are there do you have any specific examples of employees that were whose lives were affected, or whose work satisfaction was affected by one of these policies, and kind of an example of how it helped them?
Oh gosh, I'll jump on that grenade. Yeah, there's so many examples that come to mind for us here. I know you mentioned, and you said earlier, we're dog friendly. I think that's super important. I challenge all the time, what's the definition of family? Your definition is not the same definition as others. They might be closer to their nieces and nephews. They might have been raised by their grandparents. They might be taking care of elderly parents. They might not have children. They might be trying to have children. These family definitions across the board make a huge difference. I personally was affected, and it was really interesting. When I started, I lost my dog and my cat within 6 months of each other. And while that may not seem huge to some people, those are the animals I got in my 20s that kind of helped me through a lot of life. And it was very tragic for me to lose both of those back to back. And the way that my company responded with a lot of empathy and understanding, and the ability for flexibility, but I wasn't expected to just push through. I was, invited to bring my whole self to work during that time. And it was impactful in how I felt, I was able to be resilient and kind of move through that challenge in my life. I have a boyfriend who's a firefighter, and so, a lot of his close coworkers that we're really close friends with, they're both working parents, their schedules rotate, and I sometimes am able to help get their kids where they need to be, because I get to the flexibility of having a little bit of a later start time, where they don't have that flexibility with their jobs. And that family and support network for me is huge, and for him as well. We have families that have children with disabilities. Again, those different start times make a huge impact to them, as well as the flexibility, work from home. I know everyone right now is close, or probably if you have children, you know that it's spring break time. We've had a couple kiddos here at the office, here and there. It is that time of year. It's a peak season where, childcare, schools close, and workplaces don't, and work keeps happening. And so the ability, for them to bring their kiddos in, to have a little bit of flexibility during that time. I have a sister who lives in Seattle. They come down during the summer. I'm able to go up and visit, and kind of work the commute out with my with my employer. We just handle each individual circumstance as it comes, and treat people like people, and the human feel of it all. We find we do have a really sense of community and loyalty and respect and trust, and all of the things that Cindy mentioned, because of how we approach each individual situation. So
Yeah, I would say 100%. And I guess there's similarities between child-friendly employment places, and it's just really encouraging to hear. My stories, I would say I see them play out every day. And I see my coworkers do their job, do it well, and but also when they need to, they have the ability to flex hours to go pick up a child. If they get called in the middle of the day, somebody's sick, and I heard it mentioned, I think before, but without any kind of repercussions, like there's no attitude from the management or other people. Everybody comes alongside and just steps in. And I think that's so important for whatever the reason is. And again, Cindy said the exact words I was going to say is what this results in is a mutual respect and trust between management and their employees. And I know, and I'm grateful to say I haven't had an emergency situation. And I will say I have observed in our small office, I've observed somebody who had a medical emergency in their family and had to take an extended leave. And I observed somebody who had a loss in a loss in their family who had to take an extended leave, and somebody who a man whose wife is about to have a baby and will be taking his full paternity leave. And it's so welcomed. Like it's so everybody's excited for them. And like I said, we have a headquarters in Miami. And even though they are far away from us, they are in all those situations. I observed them being compassionate and encouraging and being person-centered. How can we help you through this? And that attitude and big picture is just critical in creating an office that is child-friendly, family-friendly, employee-friendly. And I also want to say, backing up a little bit on those laws, just a reminder from my world that not only are there employment laws, but there are ADA laws that help make areas of employment child friendly and family friendly. And I know those can be a stressor for some employers also, but they've been life-changing for families with disability. And so I would encourage you to also be aware of those and to try and maybe not just look at them as a stressor, but look at them as as a guideline on how you can serve your employees, especially those impacted by disability, and also your customers and clients in a way that is friendly. And then I also just wanted to mention and offer that part of what we do in our community is do presentations and education on all the things that I've talked about. We've talked about specifically with the disability in your workplaces to community organizations. So if you have more questions or interest in just becoming more child-friendly, family-friendly, especially in the area of disability, please reach out and we would love to help you.
I think that is a great place to wrap up for today. Cindy, people will have questions about how they can nominate their business or a friend's business for this award, and just real briefly, what are some of the questions on the application?
I think basically, is your workplace in Fresno County, and then sharing the ways that your business is child friendly. 3 examples of how they're child friendly, and you'll be able to find that nomination link on our website and in the Chamber's site.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for being with us here today. Again, to all the people who are participating, this will be available on YouTube. We'll send you the link. And very, very happy to have everybody here today, and we'll all work on making our businesses a little more child friendly. So thank you. Oh, the other thing, we'll do a survey. We'll go out to everybody and ask if you like the topic and what other topics you'd like to see on these small business university sessions. So again, thank you all so much for participating and educating us today, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.